7 Days to Sunny June, Book 2 by Blue Bastard. Chapter 9, Friday AM. The way we left is one. Sunset Shimmer looked around. She was surrounded by the ruins of a castle, faded, decaying walls consumed by nature. Castle Everfree. What struck her as odd, though, was that she wasn't a pony. She stood on two legs and wore the clothes she had when she first entered Calvin's mirror. Yet she wasn't fully human either. Sunset could still feel her pony ears on her head. Her skin was the same mazed yellow as she had as a unicorn. She was both species and neither at once. It was only when Sunset emerged from the depths of the ruins and found herself standing on a terrace, overlooking the vast landscape, she realized she wasn't in Castle Everfree at all. The castle she stood was in the side of a mountain. How pathetic! It sounded a distorted voice, laced with venom. Sunset whirled around, found herself face to face with what only could be described as a monster. A monster called Raspberry Barrel. Dark, twisted pony stood as tall as Celestia, perhaps taller. Her colors were composed of darker reds and blacks, as opposed to the raspberry and cornflower blue that she wore normally. A pair of leathery, bat-like wings were flared up. The monster grinned at Sunset with a mouthful of sharp fangs. Her terrifying red eyes were ablaze with telltale green, purple smoke of black magic. Worst of all was her horn. The thing was curved and filed to a deadly sharpness, stained red with the blood of numerous victims. You! Despite her terror threatening to consume her, Sunset managed to summon forth a bit of righteous anger. She realized this was the very same creature tormenting Twilight's dreams. You leave my sister the hell alone! Monstrous Raspberry just laughed. Or what? Sunset didn't waste time with idle threats. Instead, choosing to follow through with a real one as she focused magical energy to her hands. Despite her altered form, it was easier than when she had done it in the human world. Recalling everything Celestia taught her about combating dark magic, Sunset hit the demon with a full blast of purifying arcane energy. Raspberry was not impressed. You used to be much more. What happened? Sunset wasn't giving the monster the satisfaction of an answer. She just started channeling more magic through her hands. She was going to need a lot more power if she was going to do any damage. Oh, that's right. You found friends. You found a family. Raspberry sneered. But where's that guiding you? The old Sunset Shimmer wouldn't have wasted her time helping them. You were ruthless. So, what happened? Oh, that's right. You found friends. You found a family. Raspberry sneered. But where has that gotten you? The old Sunset Shimmer wouldn't have wasted their time helping them. You were ruthless. So what happened? I was a different person, Sunset shouted as she launched another, stronger attack at the demon. This time it exploded a cloud of smoke, and for a moment Sunset thought it was over. No. But then the smoke cleared, and in Raspberry's place, Sunset saw the 5 other figures lying motionless on the ground. Sunset ran toward them, found the bodies of Pinkie Pie, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Rarity strewn around her. You just knew the importance of power. Trembling, Sunset looked down at her hands and saw red skin and claws. No! Sunset turned around and tried to run, but found a way blocked by a mirror. A terrible red demon looked back at her through the looking glass, with flaming red hair and cyan eyes. Sunset took a step back and realized she was looking at Sombra's mirror. Sunset saw the effigies of the alicorns, her beloved mentor, bound in chains. But Sombra wasn't the one holding them. She was. Her demonic reflection grinned. Why deny who you are? Because I'm not that person! Sunset struck the mirror with all her might, shattering it in the demon within. Blinding sunlight shone forth from the mirror's frame. Without a second thought, Sunset ran through. Hoping to finally escape her tormentor, Sunset took in her new surroundings. She was back in the human world, standing on a paved road in the middle of nowhere. Sunset saw specks of red at her feet, and looked up to find a bloody trail leading down the expanse of pavement. She followed it to a source, her heart beating more quickly. If you really forsake your true potential for them. The corpse of a human laying on the asphalt before her. Blood and bits of bone were everywhere, their limbs splayed out in ways not meant to be. The person was so thoroughly mangled it was impossible to even tell whether they'd been man or woman. Sunset's stomach turned. She could feel the bile working its way up her throat, but she forced herself to keep it down. Then you better be prepared to pay the price of weakness. And since that there was still hair on the corpse's head, dark purple with streaks of magenta. Oh God, no! Sunset fell to her knees. She gasped for air, shrieked, and cried, No, 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 God, no, please. With that, everything she had feared now lying in front of her, Sunset was unable to register anything else. She didn't notice when the smoky blackness rose from below to claim the corpse in front of her. She didn't care when that blackness became demonic form a raspberry barrel. Only when the monster charged forward did Sunset finally look up, but by then it was too late. Her breath was cut off as the creature's twisted horn penetrated her chest. The pain was excruciating, but Sunset couldn't scream, not even as her blood seeped down into the pony's horn, not even when the horn pushed deeper and pierced her racing heart. Gasping for breath, Sunset's eyes shot open. The unicorn sat up in a cold sweat. Shaking, Sunset brought a hoof to her chest and felt her rapidly beating heart. More importantly than her chest was the hole. Sometimes Sunset sat in her bed with teary eyes, breathing heavily in the cold, wet darkness of the guest bedroom. That's what Twilight goes through every night. It's no wonder she tried to... Sunset couldn't finish that thought. It was all she could do before she raced to the bathroom across the hall before she vomited. I can't afford to waste any more time, thought Sunset as she rinsed out her mouth. Indeed, it was getting dangerously close to Sunday. The morning after that, the rest of her family would be home from Italy. If she didn't figure this out before then, there'd be no telling what would happen. Fortunately, there was still one more pony Sunset could go to for information on her enemy. During her conversation with Fluttershy the other day, the Butter Pegasus had told her the pony who probably knew Raspberry Barrel the best was Rarity, as the fashionista used to regularly buy counterfeit gems for the Dark Unicorn. If anyone could give me the truth about Raspberry, it's Rarity. Seemed only fitting. Rarity was arguably Sunset's closest friend back in the human world. She was the only one of her friend's counterparts he hadn't spoken to yet. However, one look in the bathroom mirror made Sunset realize she couldn't just rust off the mirror just yet. If this Rarity was anything like her friend back home, she would never let Sunset get a word in if she didn't look her best. So, Sunset stepped to the shower, cleaned herself off, before fixing her mane and applying a bit of makeup. As she descended the stairs, Sunset was very, very glad her temporary living situation was on top of a business that did a brisk breakfast service. With Mrs. Kate happy and healthy again, Sugar Cube Corner was back open for business. As sort of belated thank you, the cakes allowed Sunset to have anything she wanted, free of charge. Once she had been anything remotely as bad as she formerly acted, or was told her exploiting the banks out of business and home. But instead, Sunset was grateful for the generosity. It didn't take more than a slice of a cheese dance. Coffee, however, was nothing more than a miracle elixir that helped wake her up almost instantly. She probably looked like hell, given a nightmare still lingering in her head. You okay, son? Asked Pinky, somehow Basling emptied his pants over her tail, even though it clearly had the consistency of cotton candy. You look like you had a rough night. That's putting it mildly, replied the unicorn, partially trying to get drunk on caffeine, and partially shocked that Pinky was speaking in a controlled manner, not using any crazy cutesy word. Was there something wrong with the bed? Maybe your pillows weren't fluffed up enough? No, I had a lot on my mind. Pinky looked more concerned. So much that she placed the empty trays on top of display cases before taking a seat. Like, Princess Luna didn't come into your dream to help? Sunset looked up for a plate of crumbs to give Pinky a skeptical look. What are you talking about? Pinky tried. You don't have a princess in your world who looks around for ponies in their dreams when they're troubled. That's what Princess Luna does. She goes around in people's dreams? Sunset vaguely recalled having seen some cartoon a year or two ago where the plot had the main character, who for whatever reason was an anthropomorphic sponge, go to a bunch of other characters' dreams and utterly destroy them by being an absolute idiot. She then imagined Princess Luna wearing the same clothes as Sponge, bouncing from one pony's dreams to another. I couldn't help but snicker a little. I am not about to do a Luna SpongeBob voice. No.
Yeah, I know. Sounds silly, Ellie. Continued Pinky.
Unaware of Sponge Luna princess pants. Not doing it. It Sunset said.
Well, ever since she came back, part of her duties as Princess in the Night is to ensure every pony sleeps well. It's a job she appreciates considerably more than she did in her basement.
Sunset frowned. All the same, if that's what she does, then why didn't she help me last night? Could have used the backup.
I don't know. Maybe you weren't thinking pony thoughts or something?
The idea that she was becoming so human that her brain no longer fully thought like a pony, thus preventing an almighty Alcor from getting her mind, only made her more concerned for what she was becoming. Was neither a pony or a human in that dream. However, the door to Sugar Cube Corner slammed open, ending that train of thought.
Sunset! Damn you all!
Squealed Rarity. Hi, Rares? Replied Sunset, caught off guard by she accidentally used a more casual name she had for human Rarity. However, the fashionable unicorn didn't seem to care.
If you're not too busy, I need you to come with me to my house right away!
Yeah, sure, but...
Fantastic!
Like greased lightning, the alabaster unicorn took the amazed unicorn by the foreleg and raced off at an almost cartoon-like dust cloud straight for Rarity's constant velocity.
Me, on the other hand, was left on of her chin and wondered, Wish I knew how to do that! Thank you for staying at the Traveler's Retreat, warmly said Raspberry. We hope to see you again soon.
With a smile and a wave, the unicorn saw the business pony take its bag and head out the door to catch his train. Once he was gone, Raspberry took the small bottle of pits off the counter and deposited it in the cash drawer.
First payment of the day!
He has saying, how stayed Heliodor. First on his custom-made crystal bird stand, looking more like a piece of decor than anything. He cooed approval before pointing with a wing towards the set of keys, fussily returned to the management. Yes, I'll mark them, she replied. She drowned to grab a cleaning tag. She attached it to a keyring before placing the tag set to a small pegboard to the main board, indicating available rooms. Later, the cleaning does pick its band would collect the keys and prepare them for more guests. While she was fiddling with the tags, the bell attached to the door shined brightly, followed by a single ding on the service bell.
Just a second,
said Raz, finally getting the tag on the keyring. Getting it back up to the ground, she automatically said the phrase to define the call work.
Hello, how may I...
She stopped when she realized who it was that came in. Twilight just smiled sheepishly.
Hello to you too, Raspberry. And you as well, Heliodor.
Phoenix turned to thanks, doing a little bow, while Raspberry just sighed. You keep showing up so often, Sparkle. One might start thinking you're intent on conquering my domain. The Alcorn just laughed.
Don't be silly. The retreat is your castle. This is Goldilocks Library. Mine. Though I will admit, I am slightly jealous of how you got your own little cleaning staff on your deal.
Not really, since I'm staff myself. I have my own fair share of responsibilities. Plus, being a princess, even if it is just a title, hasn't won me any points with Life Fixer or Spick and Span. Especially because of how Ascot and Casimir have basically adopted me as their daughter.
What do you mean, basically adopted? You call them your parents, don't you?
I'm in my mid-20s, so they didn't fill the paperwork, but that's just formalities. Familial bonds don't need a sheet of legalese to exist. Twilight nodded, her thoughts turning to her own relationship with Spike.
Couldn't agree more. Legal or not, it's always nice to have someone there for you.
Raspberry closed her eyes and muttered, especially when it feels like you have a target on your back. Twilight tilted her head so her consent worked.
On that note, what's the word on your latest stalker?
Raspberry opened her eyes and frowned deepened. I'm guessing you mean Sunset? Sorry to disappoint, but ever since the talk you and Celestia had with me yesterday evening, I haven't seen the mayor. Raspberry paused. At least not in person.
I don't follow.
Raspberry reared up suddenly, looking around for some reason. Leaning back on her moves, she quickly pulled out a little sign that read back in 5 minutes. Come on, I guess you better see this, she said, moving mostly towards where Twilight guessed her room was. The princess followed, wondering what was in store. The Heliodor stayed put as he was some kind of guard. Then again, he could utilize fire with devastating effect, so in a sense he was equipped for the job. While passing through the door, Twilight noticed Rass's room, formerly a spare guest room, was somewhat undersized for what normally passed as the private quarters of royalty. Though it was more spacious than either of the normal rented rooms Rass had formerly occupied, or the safe house in the Everfree ruins. The bathroom looked bigger too. Here, pointing out the mulberry pony, a hoof in the direction of her desk. On it were a few books. Some Twilight recognized as only possibly come from the Sombra secret sanctum within the Crystal Empire. Various papers, on which were an assortment of various notes, enchantment symbols, and other things Twilight didn't know how to quantify. Raspberry saw the wordless observation of the Alicorn and smiled a little. For whatever reason, Sombra kept very detailed notes about that mirror, even years after he abandoned it in Castle Everfree. There's no section about how to repair it, but the various enchantments works are both explained in some of his notes, and easy enough for me to work with. Uncharacteristically, Twilight didn't hear much of Raspberry's words. Her attention diverted to a particular sketch partially hidden under the various papers. Uncovering it, she couldn't help but let out a guess at what she saw. It was a pencil sketch of a human about the same age as Twilight, and appeared when she had visited the human world. And in the colors, various shading on two stripes in her head, plus the whole hairstyle, made it clear it was Twilight. Or rather, the Twilight counterpart whose Sunset spoke so fondly of. Rather disconcertingly, the human's Twilight seemed to be crying, having her face buried into the shoulder of another human. The princess didn't need to see the other human's details to know that shoulder was Sunset Shimmer's.
How did you?
Sparred the Alicorn. That's why I was hoping you could tell me, honestly, replied Ras. I could only guess that's the human version of you in Sunset. So from what I could tell, she's telling the truth. Twilight regarded Raspberry with suspicious glare. You didn't do anything to Sunset, did you? The only way you could have known what humans are like is if you read her memories. It was as clearly read in the Australian law as... Raspberry met Twilight's career with one of her own. I thought you wanted my help, not put me on trial again. Sorry, Twilight said, holding her ears down as she regained herself. It still begs the question of how you came up with this image. That's the thing. I saw that memory of sunsets through the mirror. Seeing Twilight's skeptical expression, Raspberry took the liberty of forgetting to recap events. I don't know if Platinum Mirror does this kind of thing. With Sombra's mirror, it seems to reflect a part of what's going on in the head of the pony who last used it. Or something I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Raspberry shook her head. It's only one memory, and although it appears to be a pretty important one to Sunset, I'm not sure that's all the mirror is capable of. You mean it could potentially show more of a pony's memories, but only the important ones maybe? And how far back? I really don't know. Raspberry gave a weary sigh, indicating she had spent a lot of time trying to answer those questions. Maybe if I get the mirror back to full power, we could get some answers. But I don't like digging through another pony's most private moments. From what I could tell, when that memory popped into my head, there was more the mirror was trying to project, but simply couldn't. Though on the bright side, I did make it so the mirror only works for me. At least in all capacity, it does work. I don't know if it still works as a portal, however. Even Sombra seems to question how he managed to connect worlds. Twilight rubbed the braids of her snout. So we need Sunset on this, since she knows about the mirror's outlet in the human world. Indeed, to be honest, it's sort of relieving that there are things about dark magic you can still learn, even if it's from the writings of that jackass Sombra. Twilight nodded. Before her eyes went wide, remembering something else he had talked about. Hey, if you got some time later, I dug up some Karen spells that supposedly work against dark magic, but they're kind of sketchy. It would be so helpful to me if you wanted to spar. Sure, I have some tricks I need to practice anyway, answered Raspberry, who didn't crack a grin. Should be fun. Sansa didn't believe she could be in a situation any more humiliating than she already was in that moment.
Yes, this needs to be pitted a little higher,
Used Rarity, fully in her element. Furthermore, even the Rarity she knew wouldn't do this to her. Sunset stood on a small stand in the middle of the carousel boutique, while measuring tape, scissors, and an assortment of other tools levitated around her. Rarity studied Sunset, and the dress he had been forced to in her red-rimmed glasses.
In the close-up this part, I knew I should have made the hole so big.
Sunset made it a point to sigh as loudly as possible, being made to stand in a model for Rarity, just so the fashionista could have the closest possible form to work with. Visiting Raspberry Barrel's dress was an entirely new low.
Done!
Triumphantly declared the artist addressed. Stepping back to admire her work, it's still very much a work in progress, that much is true. But having a virtual duplicate of Raspberry worked wonders in terms of adjusting those small parts and defined an article of clothing as being a masterpiece, or embarrassing reach-out.
I just need to make those adjustments and it'll be ready for Her Highness.
Sunset winced, still not comfortable with classifying her dark recolor as a royal for various reasons. So, can I take this off now?
Yes, just give me a second.
Rarity's horn lit up, giving both it and the dress a medium blue-hued aura. Before somehow the dress was removed on Sunset's body without any change in Sunset's pose. Shimmer just raised an eyebrow momentarily in response, while Rarity put the dress back into one of her ponykins that looked suspiciously similar to carousel ponies of her human world.
Now that we've taken care of that matter, we can move on to the centerpiece of the conversation.
Come again?
Ready now? Oh, come now. Certainly you know that Twilight told me enough about the human world, and I'm well aware of Foster being important there. For instance, is it true that humans always wear clothes?
Oh, thanks, Celestia, this is gonna be easy, thought Sunset. Really, that this line of questioning didn't look like it would wind up like whatever last night it turned into. Yeah, nudity is a pretty big social no-no. Humans usually wear shirts and pants, and then under those they have underwear and socks. Except if you're a girl, then if you have any kind of... The idea of trying to express what breasts were on humans, but Sunset trying to figure out how to word such a concept. On human females, their busts on their human upper chest between their arms, located on the same general place on a pony with bikinis out of place. Does say that in some weird way, the memories that were once in between your legs are now upwards. And instead of growing when it's time to have a baby, they're already nice and big. I see your point, darling. And quickly interjected Rarity. Having suspected Sunset got trying to explain something rather embarrassing about the human physique. But steady, there's different styles, so different types of garments. No. Yeah, of course. Let me try to show you. Sunset lit up her own magic, concentrating on trying to generate the image of human clothing. Although Sunset, considering you don't wear a bra, please don't turn me into a human again, she repeated over and over in her mind. Fortunately, she didn't lose track of what her magic was doing. In the air between the unicorns, there appeared various pieces of human clothes. Curiously, even though Sunset's wardrobe had gotten larger ever since moving to the house at Golden Oaks, all the clothes in the air were clearly the ones both Tavi and Twilight had been wearing the days he first met them. Why?
It's not a sweater with a hood on it,
asked Rarity, ogling the matching copy of Twilight's gray hoodie.
And a double-ended pouch for storing things.
Well, began Sunny, before realizing that the real point of the pouch was for humans to stick their hands in to keep warm. Something in practice would render ponies immobile at best. Yes. Really? That's what you use it for? I always stick my hands in that pouch. I always put objects into that pouch. All the time. I put items, I put my comb, I put a lot of stuff in that pouch.
How Northern! I take it the hood is to be put over the wearer's head to keep it warm.
That's generally the idea of a hooded sweatshirt, isn't it? Rarity nodded, the gears of fabulosity turning in her head.
I may need to introduce this in my fall 9. Such a great idea, yet no pony ever came up with it. I can only wonder why.
Don't we all? Sunset, however, did figure it out. Humans don't have necks half as long as their legs, so a pony hoodie wouldn't be awkward to say the least. The hood alone would almost be like a cape. Hell, the cloak I wore was weird enough in hindsight. She didn't say it out loud, though, lest he be sensitive to being a dressmaking dummy again.
I must say, these look awfully uncomfortable, though,
criticized Rarity. Her attention now on what looked like Tavi's jeans.
Are humans fitting the skin in their legs?
Normally, humans don't have legs like ponies. I'm sure as hell not going to ask Tavi how thick her legs are. That's all kinds of wrong.
Well, not all things can be worn as all things that should be worn. This would be one of them. Anyway, I do thank you for showing me the, hoodie. That would be interesting once I put my own tats on it.
I don't doubt it, especially since you fixed. Soon the word stopped, and Sunset's hoof found its way into her own mouth. Fortunately, Rarity heard enough.
Oh, I fixed it once. That does remind me. According to Twilight, he is a human who is quite like me. I would be interested to know how she and I compare to one another.
Sunset sighed, me and my big mouth. Not noticing Sunset's hesitation, Rarity headed to her kitchen.
I have some leftover coffee cake. Want to shout out with that and coffee?
Never could down there and drink cake, Sunset muttered, following behind. A few minutes later, the unicorns were sitting down at the table, sipping from a well-made batch of black coffee, nibbling slices of day-old coffee cake. Rarity started by asking her about her human counterpart's dressmaking career, since it had to explain that all their counterparts were still in high school. They sat there, taking some time afterward, as it was discussing the human world's magic, or lack thereof. The unicorns heard the sound of the door opening.
I'm
Came a distinctly familiar voice with a slight squeak, followed by a jarring door slam. Sweetbell entered the kitchen.
I'm also hungry.
She stopped when she saw Sunset, eyes wide as their plates.
Oh, yes, this is Sunset Simba,
easily introduced Rarity, straight smile crossing her features. It didn't seem to placate the unicorn filly. That had been the intent.
Yes, you do know what happened the last time the unicorn was that many styles in your house, right? I'm guessing you're asking last about it. Yes.
Yes, as Sunset. So, given no other pony in town had to share hairdo with Sunset and Raz, more rhetorical question than anything. So he gave Sunset a suspicious glare that would have offended her if it wasn't so cute.
Yeah, you're not up to anything, are you? Sweetie Belle,
reprimanded Rarity.
That is not how you talk to guests. To you, ma'am, now have a talk about your behavior. Once I am finished talking to Sunset here.
With a pout, Sweetie turned and stomped up the stairs. Their slammed door soon left in her wake.
I do apologize for that. You see, my sister isn't that as conspicuous. I guess she doesn't accuse that often. I just don't know what's gotten into her.
Don't worry about it, Sunset said, grin slowly creeping across her face. It was hard to stay mad at the filly when she had given Sunset the exactly kind of information she was looking for. He's got me started on the right path. So, what exactly did she mean by that anyway? Did Raspberry cause you guys trouble? Rarity's eyes suddenly drifted away from Sunset and fell upon what remained of her coffee cake.
That's one way of putting it, I suppose.
Sunset leaned forward. Oh, do tell. Rarity chewed her lip.
Don't get me wrong, Boss means well, but she doesn't exactly have a clean history, if you catch my meaning.
Sunset took a sip of her coffee. Go on.
Sunset, this is starting to sound like an inconsistent,
Rarity said with a frown. Look, I've already asked everybody else around here about this, but no one will tell me anything. All I want are some answers. Is that really so bad? Besides sigh, Rarity conceded.
Very bad, if you must know. Mouse and I first met when she sold me forgeries of precious gems she made of dark crystals. It was her only source of income at the time, and her defense, they were really good. Unfortunately, it almost ended too well for poor Spike.
Sunset nodded. Yeah, I think I read about that. She almost killed him.
Not intentionally.
But still, she caused that much damage by accident. Imagine what she could do on purpose.
Well, maybe instead of focusing on how much she could do, maybe you should focus on what she has done,
Rarity said, giving Sunset a firm look. Yes, she's made some bad decisions in her life, and the least of it's for her forgeries, but she's done a lot of good. Over the course of the past years, she has really turned her life around. For the first time in her life, she made friends and found a family. What's more, she's done so much to protect them, to protect us. Whatever Sunset was about to say in response died in her throat.
All of a sudden, Sunset wondered where a sea and the dark unicorn had more in common than just her looks. Maybe instead of thinking Roz is your enemy, you should try being her friend, Rarity continued. I get the feeling you have better luck with your problem if you work together. Sunset levitated a cup of coffee to her lips, but stopped and set it back down. All of a sudden, she didn't crave the case of bitterness anymore. Yeah, I'll think about it. As expected, Sunset left Carousel Boutique with more info on Raspberry. Suffice to say, Sunset was not expecting to leave completely reevaluating her mission. Despite how much Sunset wanted to reject it, Ernie brought up a very good point. She could have was much more by cooperating with Raspberry than she could working against her. And it was what Rarity told her about Raspberry's past. It's the same story as mine, just with a different protagonist. Yet Sunset Simmer was unable to shake the nightmare from her mind. Every time she tried to think of a way she could approach Raspberry, all she could see was a laughing, plain-safe demon. No, I can't think like that. I have to trust Princess Twilight. I have to... Since it didn't finish, as the thought struck mostly by what she saw next. There, in a distant field outside of Ponyville, where the forms of Twilight sparkled on Raspberry Barrel, the latter was evidently raining dark magic on Twilight's pitiful defenses. Horrified, Sunset immediately galloped in the direction. She could only hope it wasn't too late. I'm not telling her. Are you folks telling her? I'm not telling her.